Cannabis plants, weapons and thousands of dollars in cash have been seized following police raids in Adelaide South. Neighbours in shock over the discovery, with one of the properties searched across the road from a school.
Heavy-duty hydroponic equipment dismantled by the drug squad. Among the metal and marijuana removed from the Morfett Vale home, a machete and a sledgehammer. The property right across the road from the Flaxmill school.
When I thought this would have happened, especially so close to a school, you know what I mean, the kids and that.
It's not good for the neighbourhood, especially opposite a school.
But some neighbours had their suspicions about what may have been happening there.
The smell, a couple of neighbours further down, they said, had this terrible smell too, and he had the air conditioning going left, right and centre, never turned it off.
No one at the Flaxmill Road property was home when police came knocking around 9 this morning, but officers made a breakthrough a short time later. While searching this home, police found information that led them to a property in O'Halloran Hill. There, $10,000 in cash was seized and a 32-year-old man arrested. He was charged with growing cannabis, possessing prescribed equipment, diverting electricity and unlawful possession. The man was granted bail and will face court next month. Jared Brevy, 9 News.
Put it back down, please. Yep. Thank you.
Police have uncovered one of the biggest drug labs in New South Wales history, seizing more than $5 million worth of pills and chemicals. Operating out of a shed in Western Sydney, it's believed the factory may have supplied the drugs which led to the deaths of 2 people at a Penrith music festival in September.
Inside a filthy backyard factory behind Sydney's dance party pill epidemic, masked police pick apart one of the state's largest drug kitchens coated in toxic grime.
This is a filthy, dirty premises. It was a grubby lab.
It was discovered inside a shed behind a family home where children live at Mount Hunter. Its feared production was ramping up for the festival season ahead. MDMA pills were found bearing the same stamp as those at the DEFCON 1 festival in September, where 2 young people overdosed and died. Police seized more than $5 million worth of drugs and precursor chemicals, including 600 litres of acetone, 300 kilos of paint stripper, 500 litres of battery acid and more than 200 litres of a toxin used by the petrol industry.
These are chemicals which shouldn't be in the human body.
We know that illicit drugs are not safe. Pill testing is not safe.
The Backyard Clan Lab is the setup of choice for pill suppliers. 80 have been raided just this year, and those who run them are far from chemists. Police charged a 39-year-old alleged cook who had to be taken to hospital because of his mental state.
They hook up over a period of time and you see a psychosis come on them.
Detectives looking closely at links with bikie gangs are sure he wasn't working alone. Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
We have some breaking news now. Police have seized the biggest amount of the drug ice in Australia's history. Sunrise correspondent Nathan Templeton joins us live. And Nathan, how much of this destructive drug is now off the streets?
Eddie, this is a huge haul, almost a tonne of ice, 903 kilograms with a street value of almost $900 million. Now, I've been told that the drugs were found concealed in a shipment of floorboards, so hidden in amongst the timber. And I also believe that the drugs were not discovered at the docks in Melbourne. They were actually found elsewhere in the city, which means that the drugs had sort of got to that next stage and were much closer to actually being distributed on the streets. But Australian Federal Police and Victoria Police are celebrating what is a massive victory for them. It was a joint operation. Arrests have been made. We're just waiting on some details on that. There will be a press conference in the next hour where we'll get a little bit more information. But basically, millions of hits of ice that were destined for streets across Australia will now not be sold. Eddie?
But first, federal police today pounced on one of the country's most infamous families, the Ibrahims, in some of the biggest raids ever seen in Australia. Members of the Ibrahim clan have long been associated with underworld figures, and now they're back in the spotlight after police investigations into an alleged audacious plan to smuggle almost 2 tonnes of ecstasy and cocaine into the country. Dylan Welch was on the scene when the raids took place.
We have stopped in excess of 1.8 tonnes of MDMA, 136 kilograms of cocaine and 15 kilograms of methamphetamine.
The level of criminality exhibited by some of the people, and certainly some of the figures that have been arrested today, are of great significance to New South Wales Police and obviously of great significance to law enforcement generally.
This may not be the first time that police have been to John Ibrahim's house in Dover Heights in Sydney's east, but this is definitely one of the more spectacular. They raided his house around 5 a.m. this morning, and it's believed to be related to an alleged plot to smuggle into Australia a very large amount of the party drug ecstasy. Dozens of federal police began a painstaking search through John Ibrahim's seaside house. Piece by piece, pillow by pillow.
The activity in Sydney alone today used in excess of 570 AFP officers, as well as a number of officers from the New South Wales Police Force. We executed 30 search warrants.
3 doors up from John Ibrahim's house, police executed a search warrant on his long-time bookkeeper, Margaret Steltaro.
When you look at the number of police, state and federal, that were involved in the raids here in Sydney and the number of homes that were said to have been searched, they're among the biggest raids I would have heard of for many, many years.
Well, we certainly put the groups that we've dismantled today at the upper echelon, at the highest upper echelon of organised criminality in this country. I can assure the Australian community that a couple of those targets particularly are certainly in the top 10 targets for Australian law enforcement across everything we do.
John hasn't been charged and there won't be any charges.
Does he deny any knowledge of this supposed plot to import drugs into the country?
What do you reckon? You're a smart man? What do you reckon? He's a changed man. Whatever he might have been 30 years ago, he's a changed man today. Okay, he's not involved in crime. He does other things. Okay? So why don't you guys give him a break as well?
The police operation reached deeply into John Ibrahim's life. Even his son Daniel was arrested and charged over the alleged drug syndicate. Half a world away in Dubai, police arrested Fadi and Michael Ibrahim in connection with a huge drug haul.
The drugs never made it to Australia. They were seized offshore by our law enforcement partners in the Netherlands. This means that almost 2 tonnes of drugs were stopped before they had a chance to cause misery on the streets of Australia.
The Ibrahim brothers have lived their adult lives in the headlines.
Police are investigating what appears to be an escalating war against the notorious Ibrahim.
Ibrahim and a 22-year-old woman were ambushed by a lone gunman.
Sam Ibrahim rushed to his sister's aid after her home was peppered by bullets.
John is the successful brother, the self-styled king of the cross, with celebrity connections.
Statistics, they can play around with them. It's bullshit. Don't fall for that crap.
Yeah, I don't either.
All it's done is it's a moron relocation program.
He actively promoted himself with the media as being an honest, clean-looking businessman who might have lived on the edge.
Back in the mid-90s at the Wood Royal Commission into Police Corruption, John Ibrahim was accused of being the new lifeblood of the drugs industry in King's Cross. It was a claim he denied. 22 years later, the Ibrahim name is still connected to drugs. The operation stretched across Sydney, and by the afternoon, police had also raided the homes of the Ibrahim's mother and a cousin.
And I'm particularly pleased that the AFP have smashed a syndicate where the members have been very well known to law enforcement for a very long period of time and have had very high profiles, including flaunting their ill-gotten wealth. And we have shown today that nobody is above the law.
Good evening. First, the biggest drug bust in Australia's history. Our police, federal and state, say they have foiled a plan to smuggle almost $1.3 billion worth of ice into the country. The drugs were mainly destined for Melbourne streets, prompting a warning from authorities we are under siege from Mexican criminal cartels trying to flood the nation with a tsunami of misery.
A record haul, more than 1.7 tonnes of ice, 25 kilograms of cocaine and 5 kilograms of heroin. It's the largest seizure of its kind, which could have resulted in more than 17 million drug deals.
One shipment of 1.7 tonnes is extremely alarming. We have averted a tsunami of ice to Australia.
The drugs were found by Border Protection agents concealed in shipping containers in California. A series of international raids followed across the US and Canada. Here in Australia, 10 search warrants were executed in Melbourne where the drugs were bound, with further raids in Sydney's west. The raids uncovered multiple makeshift drug laboratories and resulted in the seizure of $500,000 in cash, as well as more ice and cocaine.
We now believe the Mexican cartels are actively targeting Australia. They've been sending smaller amounts over the years. This is now flagging the intent. Australia is now being targeted.
So far, 6 people have been arrested, but police believe the criminal network runs much deeper.
And we most certainly would say the outlaw motorcycle gangs are involved, 100%.
The drugs were elaborately hidden in 850 of these electrical capacitors. Authorities had to physically cut into each one to find the illicit substances, with each container holding around 2 kilograms. Remarkably, authorities only stumbled across the drug cartel after pulling over a man's car in regional Victoria and finding 25 kilograms of ice inside.
And to have been able to have the smarts to build this job up from that initial interception is credit to all of our police members and partner agencies.
Investigators don't believe they've yet severed the link between the Mexican cartel and bikie gangs here, but are continuing to work with US authorities. Catherine Firkin for 10 News First.
We're here to brief you this morning in relation to a complex 2.5-year organised crime investigation conducted jointly by the Australian Federal Police and the New South Wales Police Force Drug Squad. Over the past 2.5 years, we've conducted an investigation that has led to the arrest between December 25 and 28 of 15 men, all charged with a number of offences of importing or conspiring to import a commercial quantity of border-controlled drugs. During the course of the investigation, we have seized 32 kilograms of heroin in Fiji that we will allege was destined for Australia, 600 kilograms of cocaine in Tahiti that we will allege was destined for Australia, and that culminated on Christmas night, as you all know now, with the seizure of 500 kilograms of cocaine in Parsley Bay near Brooklyn, which was also destined for the market here in Australia. The size of those 2 cocaine seizures individually places them both in the top 10 cocaine seizures in Australian history. The size of that seizure collectively, 1.1 tonnes, makes it the largest cocaine seizure in Australian law enforcement history. We know that we've seized 500 kilograms on Christmas night, 600 kilograms in Tahiti, so that's 1.1 tonnes of cocaine. The percentage of the overall market of cocaine is a bit difficult to say, but it's a significant hit for the criminal group that we've arrested as part of this. In fact, it's taken them completely out of business. We are very confident that we've gone from the top to the bottom. The entire group has been taken out. Now, having said that, we have ongoing inquiries, particularly in South America and other parts of the world, to look at who they were dealing with to bring those drugs from those countries to Australia. This is a very significant organised crime group, and you've seen the statement of facts, I imagine. You've seen the names of the people